everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will see the next hands-on lab, which is implementing Azure-based recovery services. So in that first exercise, implementing the lab environment where we can deploy the Azure VM running with Windows Server 2019 with the Hyper-V role installed. Okay, so first I have logged into the machine. So here also I have logged into the Azure portal. So next I'm going to create the resource group. So from the search bar you can search with the resource group and create a resource group. So here you need to have the subscription and here the resource group name and region. So I'm leave it with the East US and click on review and create. Okay, resource group created. Okay, next in the client machine, open the new Edge tab and navigate to this GitHub URL. Okay, and scroll down. So here click the button below to deploy from the portal. So I'm going to select the deploy to Azure portal. So this will automatically redirect the browser to the Hyper-V host virtual machine with the nested VM. Hyper-V host virtual machine with the nested VM. So here I'm going to enter the following information. So let me select the existing RG that we just created. And Azure region, I'm going to leave it with the East US. And artifact location, leave it with the default one. Host public IP address name. So I'm going to enter the new public IP address and the virtual network name. And virtual network address prefix, NAT subnet, subnet prefix, and host network interface one name. So let me update it like this. And host network interface 2 name, let me change this as well. And host virtual machine name, I'm going to change this as well. And the host admin username student and the password. Okay, next review plus create. Okay, and click on create. So let's wait for the deployment to be completed, which might take about 10 minutes. And then we'll move on to the next. Okay, so now the deployment is complete. So in the next task, we will see how to connect to this VM that we have created. Connect to the Azure VM running with Windows Server 2019 with the Hyper-V role installed. So I'm going to the search resources, and here you can search with a virtual machine. So since I have already used that, I see that under the recent services. So I'm going to select the virtual machines, and from here I'll be selecting the HVM0 that we have just created, and you can see that the status showing running, and the operating system is Windows, and the size and the public IP address. Okay, so let me open this. So on the left pan under the settings, click on the networking option. So here for the HVM NIC 0, okay, let me just click on back. Okay, so it has the public IP as well and private IP. So here I'm going to add the inbound security rule for the RDP connection. Otherwise, we cannot RDP into this. So if we see the inbound rule, it is not there. Let me click on add inbound port rule. So here destination port ranges provide 3389. That's the RDP port number. And scrolling down, and we can update the name which is relevant. Allow RDP inbound. Okay, and click on add. Okay, so the rule has been created. Next, click on the overview. So here, to connect to this VM, let's click on this connect and select the RDP. Download RDP file. Okay, let me open this RDP file and click on connect. So I'm going to log in with the student username and the respective password. Okay, it's initializing connection. Remote desktop cannot connect. Okay, hope the rules got affected. Okay. So this is NIC 2, which doesn't have the public IP. Okay, let me retry. Okay, now it's asking for the password. Click on more choice so that we can log in with the different username, student, and the password. Okay, click OK. Yes. Okay, so now we have logged into the Hyper-V, the nested VM. Okay, in the next task, download a Windows Server 2019 VHD file. Okay, so in the server manager, within the remote RDP machine, let me click on local server and let me disable this high enhanced security. Okay, let me open the Internet Explorer. Okay, and let me search with Windows Server evaluations. Okay. Okay, you can scroll down for that Windows Server 2019 and let me open this. We right click and open in a new tab. Okay, it's opened in the same tab. Okay, so here Windows Server 2019 evaluations for 180 days, and we have option to select whether Azure or ISO or VHD. So now I'm going to download the VHD file and click continue, and I'm going to enter the information it's asking, and then we'll continue download it. Okay, and click on save. Now it's downloading the VHD file. So let's wait for the download to be completed. Okay, so the VHD file has been downloaded. Let me just navigate to that folder. Let me cut this and paste it in the F drive, Hyper-V. Let me create a new folder here and I'll name it VHD and paste the VHD file here. Okay, so in the next task, we're going to deploy a new VM using this VHD file within this Azure VM. So let me close this and open the server manager. So we have already installed the Hyper-V role in this Azure VM, and now we are going to create a new VM within this server. So this is going to be the nested VM. Okay, let me open the Hyper-V manager. Click on Tools and select the Hyper-V manager and select the HVM 0. Let me just maximize it. So here under the actions, so click on new. So I'm going to create a new virtual machine. So here the new virtual machine wizard is open. So here click on next, and here specify the name and the location. Okay, let me enter the name and change the location from the default. Okay, and click next. Here make sure generation 1 is selected, because once the VM created we cannot change it later. So here I'm going to provide 2 gig, and let's check this use dynamic memory for this virtual machine and click next. Here select the nested switch and click next. So here we have the VHD file already downloaded to the C drive. Let me just select that. Okay, and click next. And click on finish. So let us, power it on. Select the virtual machine and click start. Okay, the state shows running now. Let us connect to the console. So click on this console and it will open the console of that VM. Okay, let's click next inside the VM. Accept the license term. Okay, let us set up the password. Click finish. Okay, so to send Control Alt Delete, go to the action. Okay, you can click on action and send Control Alt Delete. So there is icon here as well. With that, we can send the Control Alt Delete and enter the password. Okay, so now let us change the computer name. Let me open the PowerShell. So this is the current host name. I'm going to rename that into a different one. So for that, run the following command. So this would rename this VM into this name, and then it will restart it. Okay, so we have deployed the nested VM in the Azure VM, and in the next exercise, we'll create and configure the Azure Recovery Services Vault. Okay, so in the task 1, create an Azure Site Recovery Vault. So let me just open the Internet Explorer. Let's download the Microsoft Edge. Get the new, okay, let's download Microsoft Edge. Okay, let's click on download. Okay, so I have downloaded the Microsoft Edge, and I have installed it on the VM, the Azure VM, and I have logged into the Azure portal within that HVM 0 VM. Okay, next let me search for Recovery Services Vault. Recovery Services Vault, and click this plus icon, plus create a recovery services, and let me enter the following information. Let me choose the existing, I can choose the existing one, or I can create the new one as well. So for this example, I'm just creating the new one, RG2, and enter the name for your Azure Vault. Okay, and leave it with the East US. Review and create. Okay, and create it. Okay, let's wait for this deployment completed. Okay, your deployment is complete. So next in task 2, we'll configure the Azure Site Recovery Vault. Okay, go to resources. Okay, this WS 2019-08A RS Vault. So here under the settings, click on properties. Okay, so here under the backup configuration, click on update. And here the storage replication type, it is set to geo redundant. And let's change it to locally redundant and save the configuration. So remember that once we have changed the replication type, it cannot be changed once we implemented the protection. So let's close this window. Next, security settings. Click on update. So by default, soft delete was enabled. So we can disable and save the settings. Since this is the test environment, I'm just disabling it for make sure protection it got enabled, because all the future delete will be immediate and will not have a soft delete option. Okay, I'm just saving it and close the window. Okay, in next exercise 3, we'll implement the Hyper-V VM protection using the Azure Recovery Vault. So with that, in task 1, first we'll implement an Azure Recovery site. Okay, so first we'll create the DR VNet. So let me search with the virtual network. So we'll create a VNet. Okay, so here, okay, so here we'll create a new resource group for this one, which is RG3, and enter the name for this VNet, dr-vnet, and leave the region as the East US. Let me go to the IP address part. Click next for the IP address, and here enter the IP address space. So here enter the 10.8/22. Okay, and click on add subnet. Okay, here so enter the subnet name, subnet 0, and the subnet address range 10.8.0.0/24, and click on add. Next, review and create the VNet. Okay, so the deployment has been completed. Next, I'm going to create the one more VNet in the same resource group. Go to the virtual network and click on create. Select the RG3 and enter the name for the VNet. Leave the region as the East US, and in the address space let's add the 10.0.0. and enter the subnet name, subnet 3. Okay, and click add. Okay, review and create, and click on create. Okay, so next we'll create the storage account. So search for storage accounts and click on create. Select the existing resource group and enter the storage account name. Leave it in the East US and standard performance. Make it LRS, locally redundant, and then review and create. Okay, let's wait for the deployment to be complete. Okay, so in task 2, next we'll prepare the protection of Hyper-V virtual machine. So within the HVM 0 remote machine, go to the Azure portal and search for Recovery Services Vault and open the RS Vault that we have created already. Okay, so here under the vertical menu, click on Site Recovery under the Getting Started, and here we can see the options like Azure Virtual Machines and VMware Machines to Azure and VMware Machines to Azure. And let's scroll down. So we had a Hyper-V, the VHT Hyper-V VM. So this is the Hyper-V machine to Azure. So here let's click on the first one, prepare infrastructure, and here deployment planning completed. Yes, I have done it. So we have already deployed the Hyper-V VM. Okay, and click next. And here are you using System Center VM to manage Hyper-V host? And select no in this option. And Hyper-V site, let's click on add Hyper-V site and enter the name 08 V site and click OK. Okay, let's wait for the Hyper-V site to be created. Here next Hyper-V servers, so no servers found in the selected Hyper-V site. So let's add the Hyper-V server here. Okay, so make sure the host running Windows Server 2012 or above and configure proxy setting, then download the installer for the Microsoft Azure Site Recovery provider. So let's download this in the step 3. Downloaded the recovery site provider and click on run. Okay, I'm just going to off the do not check for update automatically and click on install. Switch back to the Azure portal and download this in the step 4 to get the registration key. Okay, let's open this. Let's try open in the notepad. Okay, so in the provider installation, click on register and here browse the file that we have downloaded. So navigate to the download folder and select the vault credential. Okay, and click on next. So here click next to connect to check connectivity with Azure Site Recovery services. Accept with the default setting and click on next. So the server was registered in the Azure Site Recovery Vault. So click on finish. Okay, and switch back to the Edge browser. Okay, and let me refresh the page. Okay, so back on the Site Recovery blade. So under the Hyper-V machines to Azure. So here let's click on the prepare infrastructure and select yes, I have done it and click next. Are you using System Center VM to manage? No. And here we have already created the Hyper-V site and we can see that HVM 0 is added. Next, click next. And here Azure subscription and post failover deployment model, resource manager. Let's click next with the default setting and next replication policy. So create new policy and associate. Okay, so here let's enter the name for the policy. "2019". Okay, source type Hyper-V and target Azure. So copy frequency, let's make it 30 seconds. Recovery point, retention in hours, 2 hours. Okay, and associated Hyper-V site, and let's click OK. Okay, let's wait for until the site has been associated with the policy. Okay, so this is almost done. So it has created and now it's associating the policy. Okay, so now successfully created replication policy, and also it is successfully associated to the replication policy. So next, click next and click prepare. Okay, so next in task 3 will enable the replication of a Hyper-V virtual machine. Okay, so here within the site recovery blade and Hyper-V machines to Azure, let's select the second option, enable replication. So here under the source environment and source location, so let's select the Hyper-V site that we had created and click next. And under the target environment, so we selected the subscription and post failover resource group. I'm going to select the RG3 and deployment model, post failover deployment model. Let it be resource manager and the storage account that we had created with the standard LRS. And virtual network. So this is going to be the DRVnet, and select the subnet associated with that and click next. Okay, so here select the VM1 under the virtual machine selection and click next. Okay, so under the replication setting, let's leave with the default setting and click next. Okay, it's asking to select Windows type. So the OS type is Windows and click next. Okay, enable replication. Okay, so in the next task 4, review Azure VM replication setting. Enabling protection failed. Let me rerun. Added already, we are not seeing it here. Let's close this. Next, let's review the replicated, the items that we, synced previously. So let's go to the replicated settings. The protected items and select the replicated items. And here we can see that the replication status shows healthy, and the synchronization, it's still 0%. So it's just doing the sync. So let me open this. Okay, so here we can see the replication health. It shows healthy and no configuration issue. So, and the status still 0% synchronized. Let me just refresh. And now it shows waiting for first recovery point and latest recovery points. And if you see the top, there is a planned failover, test failover. So we can see these options. So it will take some additional 15 minutes to complete. So we'll just refresh it later. And so until then, let's proceed with the exercise 4. Okay, so in the exercise 4, implementing Azure backup. So here in the task 1, we'll create an Azure Site Recovery Vault again. So in task 1, we'll create an Azure Site Recovery Vault. So for that, within the HVM 0 remote desktop, I have launched the VM1, which is the Hyper-V nested VM that we have deployed in the Hyper-V manager. So I have disabled the enhanced security configuration, and I have installed Microsoft Edge. Okay, and in the Microsoft Edge, I have logged in with the portal.azure.com. So next I'm going to create the Azure Site Recovery Vault. Okay, so create a new one. Okay, I'm going to create a new resource group RG4 and enter the vault name. So 8B RS Vault, and click Review Create. Okay, click on Create after the validation passed. Okay, next configure the Azure Site Recovery Vault. Go to the resource. Okay, under setting, click on properties. Okay, so under the backup configuration, click update like we did previously. And by default, the storage replication type is GRS, geo-redundant. So let's make it locally redundant and save the configuration. And close this. So next, in the same page, click the security update. Okay, and disable the soft delete and click on save. Okay, so we have configured the site recovery. So in the next task, we'll install the Azure Recovery Services agent. Within the HVM 0 remote desktop, and have opened the VM1, the Hyper-V nested VM, and logged into the Azure portal. So under the getting started, click on the backup. And where is your workload running, which is on premise, and where do you want to back up? So that's going to be, so I'm sorry, so what do you want to back up? So that will be files and folder. Files and folder. And prepare the infrastructure. This virtual machine which we are preparing is running on the Azure. We can just leverage it to evaluate the backup capabilities applicable to any on-premise computer which is running Windows Server operating system. So we can just consider this as the on-premise VM. Okay, so in the prepare infrastructure, we can select the agent to download. So let's click the download agent. Okay, let's run this. Okay, click next and click next. I do not want the Microsoft update. Click next and click install. Completed, and next click proceed to registration. Let's switch back to the Azure portal, and in the step 2, just select already downloaded or using the latest recovery services agent and download this vault credential so that we can use that to register the agent. Okay, next let's open this wizard and click browse. and navigate to the downloads and select the vault credential and upload it. Okay, and click next and generate passphrase. Enter a location to save the passphrase. Looks like it got disconnected. Let me connect to the HVM 0. Okay, so let me select the desktop. Okay, so please note in a production environment, you should be storing this passphrase file in a secure location. So this is successfully registered. Okay, make sure launch Azure Recovery Site Agent checked, and we can close this window. Okay, so in task 4, we'll schedule the Azure backup. So the Microsoft Azure backup is opened. Okay, so within this Microsoft Azure backup console, let's go to the action and schedule a backup. Okay, so in this wizard, let's click next and click on add items, and we can navigate to the C drive. Okay, system 32. Okay, drivers. etc and then host. Host and click OK. And then click Next. Oh, we didn't check that box. Windows, System 32. That box and click OK. And click Next in the wizard. So next we'll specify the backup schedule. Ensure that the day option is selected. Schedule a backup every day at the following timing. So let's set it to the early morning 4:30 a.m. and click Next. So here we can just accept the default retention policy. So until then the backup will be available. And under the choose initial backup type, let's accept the default values and click Next. So in the confirmation page, so we have selected the files and folder which will back up every day at 4:30 a.m. and the retention days, so it will keep the data for 180 days and click Finish. Okay, and close this window. So back to the Microsoft Azure backup, click on Action. Okay, click on Action and click on Backup Now. Okay, so what do you want to back up? Files and folders. And click Next. Okay, retain backup till. So just take the default date, 17th, and click on Backup. We can close this wizard. Back to the Azure portal and go to the Azure Vault. The second one we created, 8B. And under the backup items, Azure Backup Agent. So we can see there is one count, which is the VM1. Okay, the C drive. So that's what we have, selected for the backup. So next in task 5, we'll perform the file recovery by using the Azure Recovery Services agent. Okay, so for that, let's switch back to the VM1. So the Azure backup job is completed. So now what we'll do, we'll go to the system 32 and we'll delete the host file. Okay, open etc and select the host file and delete it. Okay, now we'll switch back to the Azure backup. Okay, this is the Microsoft Azure backup, and from here go to the action and select recover data, and make sure this server is selected, so from there we'll recover it. And here let's select individual files and folder. So select the volume C drive and mount it. So it's mounting recovery volume. This might take a few minutes. Recovery volume is the drive which is mounted there. Let's click on browse. So we can use RoboCopy for better performance when copying files from the recovery volume into the destination of your choice, which is our C drive. Click OK. Okay, let's open the command prompt. Okay, let me open within this VM1. And let's type the recovery volume. Okay, so we can run this command. Let me put this recovery volume here. Okay, so to verify, we can run this following command. Okay, so we can see that there is one files. So we can also go back to the etc folder and see that the file has been restored. Okay, let's go back to these browse and recovery files and click unmount so that the drive will get unmount. Go back to the previous exercise, exercise 3, where we have created okay, so let's just go to the recovery service vault and select the 8A or S vault. That was the first one, and click on replicated items. VM1. Now we can see the status shows protected, and yeah, there is no configuration issues, and health is healthy. And we can see the planned failover, test failover. These options are enabled. So never performed any test failover. So let's try the test failover. Let's leave the default option and select the Azure Virtual Network. That's the test VNet, and click OK. Okay, it's starting the test failover. Back to the AKRS Vault. So let's scroll down. Under the monitoring tab, let's select the site recovery jobs. Okay, so the test failover is still in progress. Test failover still in progress. So in the another tab, I just opened the virtual machines, and it seems it created the another virtual machine for the test failover, and still it's in progress. So we can just leave it. It may take some more time. Okay, and we have seen the exercise for implementing the Azure backup, and we have configured the site recovery, and we have installed the agent. We have scheduled the backup, and we have done the recovery as well. Okay, so that's it in this video, and thanks for watching. Thank you.